I think the answer to that one is I can't really take most of the credit. I think the main secret is I'm at Stanford. And if you allow people to take a Stanford course free, you're going to get thousands of people who want to do it. It has to be noted that in my course, just like all of these other MOOCs, these massively open online courses, although 65,000 students registered, by the end of week 4, we were down to about 10,000 students still active in the course. And when it came to the final week, when there was an exam and grading of an exam, only about 1,200 students took the exam. So in all of these MOOCs, the drop-off rate is quite substantial. On the other hand, 1,200 students took my final exam. The entire Stanford incoming class is only slightly bigger than that. So that was still a big number. But the real answer to your question is the Stanford name is what attracted to people. I think it's not surprising that, MOOCs have been around for almost 10 years now, but no one worried about them until Stanford and then MIT got in the business. Because if you have an opportunity of taking a class from a Stanford professor or an MIT professor, thousands of people are going to want to do it. Oh wow, it took over my life. First of all, putting one of these courses together, it's really like making a movie. And I've sort of involved in documentary movies on and off for most of my career. That means you have to script everything, you have to break it down to little segments that you're going to put in front of a camera and film yourself looking into a camera. That has to be scripted because you're going to record that in little bits, you're going to be doing handwriting sections. And all of that has to fit together when you go into the editing studio and put the thing together. So you really have to break it down into scenes and script it, and then you have to record it, so that's already a lot of time. Then once everything's ready to roll out and you've got the students involved, you have to be prepared to react to their activities, their responses to their questions, not individually, but in the sense of crowdsourcing on the website, on the forum, the discussion forums on the website for the course. They can vote up or vote down issues, and so as the instructor, I and my TA would look at the issues that get voted up a lot, and we'd have to respond. That meant I would then have to go and almost in real time record some explanations of the difficulties to solve their problems, to resolve the difficulties they had. And I would also have to prepare other kinds of materials in response to what they were doing. So not only is there a lot of time preparing for it in advance, like making a movie, but once the course gets going, you have to constantly be responding to what thousands of people want you to do. Another interesting feature is, if I'm giving a regular course and I might need to sort of make some changes, then I would just go away home at night and I'd make the changes, I'd check them, and then I'd make them available to the students. If you're doing an online course that's global, it means at any time within the 24-hour period, day or night, someone is on that website. So everything I did on the website, someone would notice it. And it was very fast. If I put something on the website, and I frequently did, and I was doing it in a hurry, and I made a mistake, within a minute or two, if it was a good student, there would be a message coming through, isn't there something wrong with that one? So by the time the other thousands of students logged on, I'd corrected it. So around the world, there are a small number of students who saw me making really silly mistakes, but they told me very quickly, and so I was actually able to look as though I knew what I was doing all the time. It was actually a lot of fun. It was an enormous amount of work, but a huge amount of fun. And just the experience of being in an online community that's global. This was truly global. There were several groups in Estonia. There was a Tallinn, Estonia discussion group I remember looking at. There were students in China, in parts of India, all over the world. You've got this global community coming together for this intense period of 5, 6, 7 weeks of activity where they share a common goal, and all the language and the social and the cultural and the political differences in the world go away because everyone is focusing on one thing. So just as a human experience, it was unbelievable. I mean, that alone made it worth doing, to be part of something really big that's taking place. It's also worth noting that I did mine on this MOOC platform, Coursera, which is a spin-off from Stanford. Coursera has been growing faster than Facebook did. It's almost the fastest growing social networking site there's ever been. Now, it's not going to get as big as Facebook, I'm sure, but in terms of growth, the growth of these MOOC platforms has been one of the fastest growing social media sites that the world's ever seen. Well, the honest answer is nobody really knows, but having given a course and having talked to several of my Stanford colleagues who've given courses and talked to the engineers at Coursera who are developing the platform, I think I have as good an idea as anybody as how these things will go. First of all, to my mind, an online course can never be the same or as good as a physical course. In some ways they're actually better, but in many ways they're not. In particular in things like mathematics and science, they're not about opinion, they're not about group consensus. There's things that are right or wrong. So if you're in a discussion group, and really what you're doing when you put a MOOC together is you're building an online learning community. People look at the videos and the online quizzes. Those are that's just part of the platform. MOOCs, online courses, are not really about video lectures. It's not streaming video of lectures. That's just one delivery mechanism. It's not about online quizzes. What a MOOC is about is building an online learning community, because learning is something that takes place when people interact. So you're building an environment and a community in which people interact. That's what MOOCs are about. In the case of mathematics and science, if you've got a discussion group trying to understand something and talk something through and solve a problem together, someone in that group needs to know what they're talking about, needs to know what's right or wrong. Otherwise, that entire group could go off course and spend a couple of days doing something that's ultimately wrong. So you have to seed these groups with experts. Now, in a physical university, there is an expert, the professor, or the TA, the teaching assistant. So you have people who know what they're doing. In an online course, if you've got tens of thousands or maybe millions, because these things I think will grow, of students, you actually probably don't even have enough experts around to go online. So you have to use some sort of a bifurcating tree of expertise that you can seed in. There are ways of doing it where you would sort of circulate people who know what they're doing. But that's going to be one of the challenges. Part of making mathematics and science MOOCs is building up a sort of Wikipedia-like community of volunteers who every year, if I give my course every year, I will need maybe 100, 200, 300 people, volunteers who do understand the material, to go online and to enter these discussion groups. Otherwise, you're going to lose correctness. And in mathematics and science, correctness is just essential. So there are challenges to building them. Absolutely, there are challenges. In terms of where they're going, I think these are going to change. My own president at Stanford, John Hennessy, has said there's a tsunami going to hit higher education as a result of these MOOCs. Now, I think he's right, but I'm not sure he's right in the way I think it's going to happen. He's really saying that because of these online courses, many regular colleges and universities will die and go away. I don't think that's going to happen. I think two things are going to happen. Most universities and colleges will stop giving basic lectures. It's actually crazy that we still give lectures. The printing press should have ended lectures. The reason we had lectures in the first place was because the only way to get the material was to copy it from someone who had it. These were handwritten manuscripts in medieval periods and before that. If you wanted to learn some mathematics, you had to go to a professor who had the only book around in the city or the region, and that professor would write the book up on a board and the students would copy it. It was a method of copying. You take one version and the students make 20 copies, and then they can go and lecture on it and give it. So it was a method of duplication. When the printing press came along, the lecture should have died. It didn't. Education tends to develop inertia, and we've been using lectures ever since. They survived the printing press, they survived the copying machines, they survived the photocopy machine, they survived making PDF files, they've survived PowerPoint, they've survived everything. I don't think they're going to survive MOOCs, because MOOCs do everything that the lecture can do. So most colleges and universities will stop giving lectures. If you want to go to a university in the English-speaking world, and you want to take a math course, you might take it from me. I might give the lecture. But who's going to work with the students to understand the material? I can't, not if there's thousands of students. It will be a professor at the local college. So professors at local colleges will spend almost all their time working individually with students, which is the best use of their time and always has been. So great efficiencies are going to come along. But that doesn't mean to say universities are going to close. They're just going to do different things. That's one of the things that's going to happen. Now, I mentioned that I thought that John Hennessy was a little bit off target when he talked about the tsunami, because here's what I think the tsunami is. If you're giving online courses, education is not a one-way thing. There's people who know and they provide the information and they help other people to learn, but they also assess. It's a two-way pipeline. Expertise from me goes to you as the student, but at the same time, I can assess your performance as a student. So part of what happens in education is assessment of ability, assessment of performance, which leads to careers and jobs and different life changes. If you've got a MOOC that people all around the world can take for free, that means the only thing you need in order to not only learn some material, but be assessed in what you've learned, is a broadband access. And increasingly, we're getting rapidly to the stage where everybody in the world will have broadband access. Maybe not in their homes, they may have to go to some centre. But if you can get a first-class education simply through a broadband access, that means education is available to everybody in the world. And when education is available to everybody in the world, and when we can assess them, that means the current shortage of talented individuals that advanced nations like Estonia and the United States and Europe face, we have huge difficulties finding people with the right experience, the right talents, the right abilities, the right learning. If the source pool is the entire world, suddenly that shortage disappears. Now already in places like Silicon Valley, many of the people that the tech companies hire are from around the world. But we recruit them by a very inefficient method of having recruiters go around and talk to people and doing interviews and things. When we are giving an educational system to the entire world for free and we're assessing them, we have the most amazing pipeline there's ever been for finding talented individuals wherever they are in the world and giving them the opportunity to work for some of the best companies in the world. That's the tsunami. That's what's going to change the world. The total leveling of the playing field, where the only thing that matters in order to get a good career, to get a good job, is how smart you are. It doesn't matter where you are, who you know, what resources you have access to. That broadband access takes you to a MOOC, gives you the learning opportunity and assesses you. That changes the world. It totally levels the playing field for everybody.